Welcome back to the Intelligent Builder podcast, sponsored by Plutus Agents. Today, I'm joined by Robert Schissler, the Senior Director of Operations at K&H Home Solutions, which is a Colorado home improvement company that's been around since 1956. Now, Robert's story is pretty interesting. He started out in commercial construction, focused on, windows and doors, moved into residential, ran his own window company, and then eventually made the leap from field into leadership with K&H. So we're going to talk about those leadership shifts and what kind of changed when new ownership came in at K&H, modernizing the business a little bit, how they think about quality when you're working inside somebody's home, and along with some of the shifts we're seeing in the industry. So, Robert, it's great to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, of course. So let's kind of start back at the beginning. You went into commercial work, windows and doors. So what pulled you into that world in the first place?
I think in general, just the enhancing how people live with hands-on experience and kind of marrying the two, and just yeah, changing how people live in their house really is what kind of drew me towards it.
Right, now that makes a lot of sense. You immediately see the value, the improvement in those spaces, which
Yeah,
is
yeah, no, I mean the first thing we hear right off the bat is probably noise control in the house that they didn't realize before. And then just the overall appeal, right? The curb appeal that it does for the house as well. So a couple of things right off the bat that kind of, person that's been looking at this thing for 20 years now gets to look at it with a little bit more sense of pride.
yeah, definitely. And then you kind of transition into the residential side of things, right? So
Yep. Yep.
why did you decide to make that shift?
I think it was about consistency and wanting to just get really good at one thing. When you kind of dabble around a little bit of everything, you can't really be good at something. So I saw a lot of potential there as my family was growing, as my career was growing, wanted to just have some more consistency. So delve into something that I really enjoyed doing and I was really good at. So,
I know that's awesome. And
yeah,
then, you made the jump to your own company, right? You and a
yeah,
partner, was it?
yeah, yeah. Me and one of my partners, we ran our own business together, doing it for about 7 years, and then yeah, just the growth kind of started coming naturally, right? Like you start realizing you can kind of capitalize on what's going on and run your own business. I say it lightly, the freedoms of entrepreneurship, right? Like it sounds great. You make your own hours, but there's a lot of stresses that come with it. Um, so yeah, so that kind of what drew me away. And then I kind of pulled away from that and started my own business doing the exact same thing. And then did that for about 3 years.
Yeah, you said something on our last call, like people think of entrepreneurship as freedom and money, right? But they don't
Right.
realize, like you said, like the stresses, the weight when you have employees and their
Yep.
families depend on you and stuff. So what maybe hit you the hardest there, like when that reality set in as a business owner?
I mean, that set in really early on, right? Because I was able to kind of partner with somebody before and kind of realizes that we both had each other's back there. It set on. But then once you started bringing on your own employees and really like realizing like this is how they, feed their families and pay their bills, it just becomes an immediate, like, I guess, ownership of like, what this, I'm doing this full fledged. And investing everything I got in it. So it takes some time and money and some growing pains for sure. But that was really kind of the first thing that kind of set on real early for me was, the weight of wanting to make sure I perform to be able to keep consistent work coming in.
Navigating that, it seems like it can be pretty interesting. A lot of ups and
Yeah,
downs for sure. Like especially when you like mentally, you got that weight in your shoulders. You really just got
right,
to figure it out. Like there's no other way.
right. That and I mean here in Colorado we deal with seasonal weather, right? Today earlier, in fact, it was kind of like a rain sleet kind of mix, and so when you're dealing with exterior products, you kind of are at the mercy of Mother Nature too. So you take everything into effect, and um, you know we get a lot of sunny days here, but there is some snow too. So you have to take the good with the bad. Still pay your guys when you didn't get paid, stuff like that. That you definitely want to do the right thing for to keep people around. So
Yeah, definitely. The external factors are very difficult. Just in the industry in general, like the weather, yeah, but permitting and stuff like that. But then
yep,
kind of going along with that, COVID. So COVID hit, right? And
yep.
then things started changing, momentum shifts, and it gets all weird. So then you went from, your own company to K&H, or you were kind of a contractor with them already. What was that kind of
Yep.
change like?
So yeah, so I was contracting with them, working, which was a great company. I had a great relationship with them, and then was asked to kind of come in on the internal side of it to help just facilitate kind of on a project management scale to pre-construction stuff, right? To make the installs go a little bit smoother, help coordinate a team, build a team that could be successful, and start execution.
Yeah, no. So you've had some great growth over those 8 years that you've been there now too.
Yeah.
And then there was that you were there for the shift of the new leadership, the new
Yep.
ownership really. So you said the word, what was it? It was revolutionize, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
yeah, yeah. Um, what does that actually mean? Like what did that really do for the business at the time?
Oh man. So, just changing our processes. I mean, we have a lot of, people in our market that also do good work, and the best thing to do is stand out by trying to do even better. So tightening our systems, being more modern with the times on, where the world is, digitizing forms, contracts. COVID was interesting. It kind of really pushed a lot of this process because during that time we were doing sales, via Zoom calls. A lot of our measures were getting done on the outside only, so that causes its own issues in its own. So through some of that adversity, we realized that we could come up with some better systems just in the normal day. And so that's where it really helped kind of streamline a lot of the stuff is digitizing our measure sheets and just being more efficient at it because now we're not relying on a person or a thing. We're kind of getting information in real time since we can, with iPads and different things that we can utilize now.
Yeah, that's huge, especially just for scaling in general. But what were some of
Yeah.
the old ways that kind of had to go? What are the first changes that were made?
Well, first changes, we, like I said, right off the bat was digitizing everything so that we could go from contract to pre-construction immediately. And as soon as we go good, then we can start getting our people out in the field to start taking our pre-construction measurements, job sites, making sure everything's kind of aligned up for the installers. And that was number one. Number two was streamlining how we scheduled. So part of the old ways was, we did it like based on just previous experience, man. We've had some issues with deliveries. If it's not here, we don't schedule it. Well, the partners that we work with, manufacturers and stuff, we have really good relationships with, and we hold them accountable all the same. So we changed how we scheduled. So instead of waiting for material to get here, we hold our, manufacturers accountable. They make sure they get us product on time and, without damage. So then I can start pre-scheduling. So now we swapped it from before it arrives to here's when your material is arriving. We can get you on the schedule as soon as that truck arrives on a Monday. We can get you on Wednesday. So really turning that time frame around to help streamline it, make stand tighter to our deadlines, and then just making homeowners feel good that I spent the money and things are moving. We're not sitting and going, "What's going on?" We're getting what we paid for. So
Yeah, maintain that momentum. That's always
yeah,
super key. And
yeah,
then the
exactly,
relationships too with like the suppliers, that's
yeah,
going to be the best thing you can do, honestly, because timelines they're tough. They can shift so
right.
fast too, right?
Weather, manufacturing delays, getting hacked, and your systems are very elaborate. I mean, there's so many different things in today's world that can cause delays. So, but again, we just partner with great people that take it serious and they help us be successful as well.
Yeah, yeah. So that's great, the modernization there because it was a legacy business, 1956. That's a
Exactly.
long time ago, right? So the systems could be a little bit outdated there. So it's good you were able to make that shift under that new
Yeah.
ownership. And
Yeah.
then you were you had that growth opportunity, right? You went up to director of operations, and then all of a sudden there's growth opportunities for everyone, right? So how did that kind of shift the culture maybe when opportunity was seen?
Sure. There was sure there's some other adversity to come over, right? We have some people, like you said, some good people that made this business successful as long as it's been. Having to kind of see through that was a little challenging at first because there's some people, we have one of our service techs. He's still with us today. He's been here 35 years. Been with every owner of the company, which there's been three. And learning how to walk through like being a little bit younger, but taking on the role of responsibility and help coordinating some of this more strategic, growth and getting customer experience up, having homeowners, less complications really. So, but with that comes, having to deal with some of the people that, like I said, had been here before. And easiest way to get through that was just listening to people, hearing their concerns and kind of challenging it. If there was an insecurity, what can I do to make you feel better about it? And why is it there? I'm given the opportunity to grow. And so I want to make sure I'm doing that with excellence. So, yeah, but through that, I've been able to learn so much. I mean, my mission now as a leader at the elevation that I've gotten to is to, kind of become the dumbest person in the room, hire smart people that do good work for me. And it's easy to succeed. So yeah, that was part of coming up through all of it. But being able to have that growth with the owner, Diamond, like we spoke a little bit ago, I'm kind of bringing some change in. I'm giving me the opportunity to implement some of that change and, some autonomy to make some calls.
Yeah, kind of like you were saying with your leadership approach, you got to be make sure everyone around you is smarter than you. Because then you can
Right.
continuously learn, like you're saying, and especially if you're on the younger side, leading people that are older, maybe like the guy that's been there for 35 years or
Right.
whatever, very long time.
Right.
That's that can be tough. So, can
It
you talk
is.
a little bit more about that?
Sure.
What were kind of the hardest moments early on, maybe to gain trust or
Early on, it was, yeah, kind of like letting them know, like, I've worked elbow to elbow with you. We've been here, and I'll do anything that we need to do to be successful. So there's nothing I'm going to send you to do that I won't do. There's nothing that I haven't done that you are going to do. With some of the older ones that I deal with, I guess it was more like just critiquing the conversation, to having them being open to some of the changes that are coming. When you're here that long in the company, like you said, it's a legacy company, you get kind of stuck in your ways. So approaching the conversations, openly, and just like, offering new ways to grow, but listening to their concerns as to why, and this, that, and the other. Because there's value in a 35-year tenureship. I'd be foolish not to tap into that. So, I mean, even in 18 years that I've been doing this, I'll be foolish to say that I'm not constantly learning, always improving. So through that, yeah, like I said, going out, getting on their ladder with them, and willing to do anything that they have to go do, I think kind of helped navigate some of that. And them going, you know what, he's not just sitting behind a desk telling me what to go do. He's willing to get up on the rope with me and lift this window up there. So that was part of it. And then, like I said, just being willing to have some open conversations. It's uncomfortable, but that's what makes us grow.
yeah, it's nice that you can kind of be at that intersection, right? Like you can be in the field, but you're also, a leader
Right.
too. And then, yeah, you're right. Staying open with conversations, like especially when you're trying to modernize and they're kind of stuck in those
Right.
old ways, they have good reason to be stuck in their old ways because it
Sure.
works. So just kind of
Right.
talking that through and kind of bringing those older insights into the new wave of modernization can be interesting conversations too.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. Very enlightening.
Yeah, definitely. And then since wait, so when in terms of like now you're year 8, at what year were you promoted to director of operations?
So I was about 3 years in when I was promoted to director, and then so now recently, well, not recently, in the past about year and a half, because we're trying to create some more growth, was promoted to senior director. So we had somebody else come in the director position. So about year 3 is when I took on that role and was able to kind of implement some of this stuff, make some new changes, and then kind of work out all the kinks to that, and then kind of do some pass off stuff to, some other people that we were trying to elevate.
Very cool, awesome. I wanted to ask that because I wanted to see if you had any advice for yourself 5 years ago. I'll say 5 years ago because that's when you stepped into leadership. So
Yeah.
any coaching advice as you stepped into leadership for your younger self that you would tell yourself in maybe a sentence or 2?
Be patient, allow the growth to happen, because with all of it, there's a learning process regardless. It's not adversity, it's an opportunity.
I love that. It's not adversity, it's opportunity. Yeah, because there's a lot of growing pains that come with that
Yeah,
too. You gotta really
absolutely.
navigate that.
Sure, yeah. And the head a lot, and with leadership comes a loneliness, right? Like, you start realizing those people that you worked right next to, are now kind of, holding things a little bit from you because now you're the boss, which that's just how it goes, right? Like, I remember being down there too, and being in those, you're working closely with these people that, every day they it comes really personal contact. So, when you kind of step away from that and get away, you start realizing, like, oh man, it's a lonely spot up here, but well worth it, and happy to be in the position.
Yeah, no, definitely. There was something else you also said on our last call. It was you can't be perfect, but you can strive for excellence. Right.
Yes.
And that's a good way to just approach leadership in a business when you're at like the higher level and especially in a homeowner's house. Like that's
Yeah.
where the real difference matters. So how do you set the expectations internally so your team can, strive for that excellence?
Definitely training, 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 training. We constantly here want to focus on being a training organization, right? And building people up in their positions. So, I would say my job here as leadership is to make sure all my people have the right tools to be able to go and apprehend all that, right? Because you're right, we're in a person's home, and what we realized a lot through the COVID time was, these are people's safe places. These are their castles, their everything. So you have to just make sure everybody's equipped to be able to handle whatever it comes. I mean, we deal with so many different people and expectations and different lifestyles on accessibility and everything. So just make sure everybody has the right tools and they feel confident in that role that I've given them to be able to handle that. And if they don't, how can I help?
That kind of goes back to the patience too. You got to be patient.
Yeah,
Let's see, the last podcast I was just editing the other day was this guy Rob. He, similar name. He went to a commercial from residential because it can be, I mean, not the sole reason, but it can be difficult to work with homeowners, right? Because
sure.
sometimes not because, not because people suck, but it's hard to see perspective sometimes as a builder versus a homeowner or a,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
home solutions guy. So how do you kind of navigate that?
Well, I mean, really, I look at it as a personal perspective. I'm a consumer, right? I buy products and things, and I want to get what I pay for too. And so when it comes to some of these big investments that people make on their homes to enhance the way they live in their house, I look at it from that perspective, right? Like, what do I want out of it? Um, and some of these things are very high end, and I'll never be able to maybe afford those things, but I still hold it to the high standard of like, what would I want out of it, and how can I give them the best possible experience? So doing so by just being real with people. We are we're a growing business, and but we're still at the end of it, we're a family owned business that have expectations. We hold ourselves accountable.
Sometimes you gotta step in their shoes, and also like
Exactly.
you're saying, be transparent too. Just be open about everything. That's great. You maintain that value as you've been leading. But kind of staying on the job site, what's a common mistake where things go sideways, or a common moment really, not necessarily a mistake, where things can go sideways? And then what does a good or great operator do to mitigate that?
I would say a lot of the things that we run into day of is going to be maybe homeowner expectations, right? So with a lot of the more window door side, because with a lot of our exterior products, we're on the outside of the house, but with windows and doors, it's kind of a 50-50. We're a little bit in and a little bit out. So I think the biggest thing we run into is preparation, right? What was their expectations on where they're going to start in the house? And what do we need to be able to get access to that? And I mean by sometimes people have a cat, a dog, something that they want to make sure doesn't just scoot out the door or the window. So they want us to start in a certain room. Kids are taking a nap in this one, whatever it is. So kind of just making sure that we line up those expectations right off the bat, so that there's no day of oh, I don't have time for this, or any adversity between the installer or the homeowner. So we do that by having some pre-construction meetings, send out some expectations on, to the homeowner, just a simple email going, hey, we're going to be showing up in a couple of days. If you could help us by taking some blinds down, moving some furniture. Now, not everybody can do that. So we understand we run into that. So what do we do in the moment? We understand, we listen, like I said, and we just work around it. The guys are there to make money and to do their job. So if it's a matter of, hey, can I get out there in front of you and move some stuff? Can you help me out and get it there? But it's never something that we won't take care of. I think that's the biggest thing we run into is preparation on the front end and our expectations. So just trying to set the guidelines right off the bat is what we work on.
Yeah, because you can prepare like all day long, but there's always something that's going to come up. So be kind of being
Yeah.
open-minded too when you're out there,
Right. Yep.
so you can, you know, and go with the flow in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Again, we're in people's homes, so we understand we're coming in and kind of interjecting in your life for a day or two, or maybe just for a couple hours, but whatever that is, we want to make sure we try to make it as seamless as possible. When I was installing, one of the biggest compliments I ever got was, man, it looks like you guys weren't even here. And it's like, yeah, we came in, we replaced what we were supposed to replace. You didn't have to clean anything. There wasn't dust everywhere. If you didn't see us do it, you wouldn't even know it was done, right? So that was like some of the best stuff. So where you're in there, you're out. You're accommodating for people that, again, this is their lives. They're on their way to take their kids to school. Their mom's staying with them. It's a personal thing. So being willing to kind of bend and move in some ways is key.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great compliment to get too. So you do the job really clean and seamless. And then
exactly.
you run a team of about 7 people, right?
Yeah, currently here, yep,
Okay,
internally,
cool. So
operationally.
got you. Okay, so running that team of about 7, how do you make sure, the jobs from start to finish are clean and seamless? What are some of the day-to-day things maybe that you do versus what your team does to really make sure everything's going smoothly?
Sure. Um, so, stuff on the leadership side is going to be definitely keeping up on my one-on-ones with my team, making sure where their heads at, making sure, on both a professional and personal level, like how are we doing, making sure we're okay, first and foremost. Secondly, we've implemented a lot of, SOPs, standard operating procedures, to make sure that it's pretty seamless along the way, as long as you're trained and have the right tools. So, and after that, then it becomes kind of a well-oiled machine. So, I mean, honestly, confidently, a lot of the people that I have, they do their jobs really, really well. And that was part of my fun as building the team. And when I was growing in my leadership role, was being able to build a team of people that, really all share the same core value. We have a vision here is to, quality products in on time and in budget. And that's what we do here in operations side of the K&H. So yeah, weekly one-on-ones, checking in with my team, making sure they're trained with all the proper tools and everything they need to be successful.
Kinda making sure you have the synergy at all times. You can
Yeah, yeah,
really
absolutely.
mold together. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, full autonomy, letting them make the decision on their own. Like, first, I mean, obviously, you're going to go through some training and some adversity and some insecurities, but last thing I ever want to do is micromanage anybody. I want to make sure everybody feels like they're confident in their decisions that they're making, that it's for the best interest of the company, and that they feel good about it. So that's pretty much what I focus on, making sure they, their headspace is right and they feel good about what they're doing. And, we want to earn trust. Our goal here at K&H is to restore faith back in home improvement. Unfortunately, a lot of people have been burned and done wrong. So focusing on the team, making sure we're all, rallied around the same goal there at the end of the day.
Yeah, ensuring that trust is super important in the industry because like you said, a lot of people have got burned before. So
Yeah.
maintaining that trust is super key. I love your leadership approach too, by the way. Just in general, just
Thanks, man.
based on what we talk about, it's awesome.
Thank
So
you.
you have great SOPs, great systems in place, but now there's a little bit of market volatility, right? People are more
Yeah,
price sensitive and they do have to do a lot of research. Reviews really matter now, I think, kind of anchoring back to
absolutely.
trust. But what are you doing differently now since the buyers kind of changed a little bit?
Doing differently now. We're making sure, first of all, that the products we're providing are leading edge. That we're making sure we're staying on top of providing what is industry standard and better. Different things on reaching out to our market in particular. There's definitely a lot of competition out here, and we're definitely getting our market share. I would say we're making sure we're getting a little bit more tight on our process, or on who we're or willing to. Um, Bring on the team to make sure we're successful, right? I mean, as you're a growing business, you tend to, hire fast and bring on some people. But I think the biggest thing that we're doing now is bringing on really talented people that are focused in the areas of what they do, from our VP of marketing to our events team to help bring in more leads. That's one thing we're doing a lot different this year. We're focused on trying to become more relatable with our consumer, and we're dabbling around a little bit of an idea of getting a mascot, because we've seen success in other businesses that bring that on and make it more, relatable when you see something. And then yeah, focusing on quality control, making sure that again, the consumer want to make sure people get what they pay for. They're high ticket items, that's for sure. And people, like I said, spend a lot of time and money. Sometimes you get those people that have the money and they're ready to throw tens of thousands at it, and then you get everybody that's they've been saving for 5 years to put this new door in. So everything needs to be treated the same.
Yeah, those are all great things to be looking at. I love the idea of a mascot. That's unique. I could see you guys rocking some big bird or something. I
Yeah,
don't know.
no, right now I think the winner right now is a moose here in Colorado,
Okay, yeah, yeah,
and then we're
Colorado. Yeah,
playing on
that's
the K&H thing. I think we're gonna go Hank the Moose is what we want to do. It's nothing in set in stone. Don't quote me, but that's where we're realizing that could be something that would help us out.
I like that. That's super cool. Like you said, you're in a competitive market, so differentiating yourself, being unique, that's going to be super key. And then kind of going
Yeah.
along with changes too. You mentioned that in your leadership meetings, AI is being talked about a lot,
Yep.
right? There's
Yep.
in every aspect, finance, sales, ops. It's always how can we use it
Everywhere.
to our advantage? And
Right.
again, you need to differentiate yourself. You need to kind of stand out. So, what's your approach to that? What do you think's gonna help you out the most? That's not just gonna create noise.
I think for on the operational side of it, I think leaning heavily on system thinking, anything that creates consistency and removes uncertainty.
Yeah. So making the most repeated tasks automated.
Yes,
So
exactly.
the systems thinking approach. Yeah.
Exactly. Trying to, as we move forward, we're gonna, have strong systems in place, give us more, better data decision making. So that's kind of where I think AI will really help us. And in particular, in the construction world, there's a handful of different AIs that pertain to just operation flow and inefficiencies and stuff like that. So I'm excited to start leaning into some of that stuff and seeing how we can start using it to our advantage. I mean, our benefit is you're never going to be able to replace that human element in what we do as far as the physicality goes, but definitely leaning into, like I said, the more systems thinking approach to it.
Yeah. That's gonna be fun to look at. It's always interesting. It gets you excited. But kind of
Yeah,
like you said, there's places where you can't add AI because you need that human approach. So
right.
where are some areas where you think you'd never add AI because you need that human judgment, or maybe just the relational
I would
aspect of humans?
Yeah, I think that at the end of the day, like getting face to face with our customers, it means a lot to them. Again, they're investing a lot of time into our company and money and their efforts. So I think that that's one thing that you're never going to be able to replace is that human element of us getting out there, making face, being relatable, and just understanding. I mean, some of the best conversations I've had have been going out because there was some adversity, something went wrong on the job, and that's kind of my strength is being able to go out there and make them feel better about what's going on, that there's a plan in place, and but they feel good that they spent their money with us because at the end of the day, that's what you want to really feel is that you're good, that you got a great product, everything's warranted, and you feel good about where you put your money. Honestly, I think that's a big deal. So I think getting out there, and then our installers, they're in these people's homes. They're all very personal people. You're never going to be able to take away those personalities of the different venues of people that come in and install. And that was one thing I really always enjoyed installing was you get to meet a new person every day. It's kind of the same thing every day, just different house, but you meet some really, really interesting people.
Yeah, I bet that part is super cool about it. Like the just
Yeah.
meeting cool people, the relational aspect, just getting to talk to people too, if that's the kind of person
Yeah.
you are, being personable. All right, so you've modernized the business a little bit. You put
Yep.
some focus on quality and new tools you're looking at, in terms of automations. But where do you plan to go next? You kind of mentioned you have high expectation for 2026, right? So what has to be true by the end of the year to look back and be like, wow, this year was a win. This was a great year.
I think 2026 for us is controlled, healthy growth. I think it's improving customer experience, tightening our operations consistencies, and building on the momentum that we've done this past couple of years with changing the brand and really giving that customer experience first approach to everything. I think that's what 2026 is for us.
Yeah, no, that's a great approach to have. You kind of threw out a bit of a growth plan last time we spoke. It was numbers. I'll just say like 10 to 20 is kind
Hmm.
of like where you're aiming to go. I forget the exact numbers, but
Sure.
what do you think would be the biggest bottleneck that decides whether that happens or not? Say you're going to double in growth in 3 years.
I think the biggest bottleneck is going to be making sure we have the right people in the right seats doing the right job, right? Because, and what I mean by that is just because you like somebody doesn't mean they need to be in that job. And so getting uncomfortable and making sure again we're hiring smart people. So bringing on the right talent and putting them in the right positions to be able to be successful for us. I think that's key.
Yeah, so how are you planning to do that with the labor gap that we got going on? There's a shortage out there, right? So what are you putting in place
Sure.
in terms of systems or outreach to really make sure you're getting the right people?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is just like we definitely we don't just want to settle, right? Like we want to bring on that person that we're like, man, this is really going to be the change or the person right for this job. And so if that means that we need to meet somebody, halfway or all the way, I think that's the best approach. So I mean, just really being rigorous about our onboarding process to begin with, and just not settling for just somebody who says they can do it. Really invest in that right person, I think, is what matters.
Definitely. That's a really good answer, actually. I want to ask you one more question though, kind of zooming out a little bit. So we talked a little bit about the changes that have been going on, just in terms of the industry. The advancements to technology. There's AI, a lot of good stuff out there. But what do you think the best contractors will be doing differently in the coming years, say the next 2 to 3 years?
And best contractors. I think that the future is to those that understand that like operational efficiency isn't enough, that really investing back in your teams is huge. Again, I'm always going to lean back on the training. I think that like this goes back to um, my physical install days is you're limited by the tools you have, right? On how successful you can be as an installer physically. Same thing gets translated into the administrative side, right? If your people aren't equipped with the right tools to be able to do what they need to do, I can't really hold them accountable. So that's where my job is, on the leadership side, is to make sure that I'm giving them everything they need.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's very true. That's going to be super important moving forward. Yeah, well, thank you, Robert. This has been awesome. I appreciate you being
Yeah,
so open about
absolutely.
everything. The leadership shift, your approach too is really great. And then, a little bit about the growth strategy you've had in the past and then moving forward too. Very interesting to talk about. But before we close out though, where should people connect with you? You or K&H Home Solutions?
You can get me on LinkedIn, of course. My name is Robert Schissler on LinkedIn, KNHHomesolutions.com. We're in Arvada, Colorado. Um, we work in restoring faith in home improvement.
Perfect. That's awesome. I'll link some of that information below. People can find you pretty easily. But for everyone listening, thank you for tuning in to The Intelligent Builder. You found this episode valuable. Make sure to share with another builder, founder in your circle. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.